Hello, welcome and welcome back. This is Jacob and today we are gonna be continuing our narrations for the different endings of Mizuki and Cerulean Arbor, aka Integrated Strategies 3, today with ending number 3. But before we begin, let me say the usual very quickly as a quick reminder. For anybody who has missed ending number 1 and 2, the links to those are in the description of the video. And also a quick reminder that obviously this whole thing continues off of the theme and stuff that was already discussed and shown, even mentioning stuff from the Undertides and Stultifera side stories. So I would highly recommend, if you wanna avoid any spoilers or name drops from those events, especially characters and such, because some of that will be in today's episode. As per usual, so playlists for those are also linked in the description if you want to familiarize yourself for, or rather with, the journey through those two events, so you don't get spoiled on certain things. But before we also begin, quick reminder that the different endings outside of ending 1 being the only canonical ending in IS3, all the other endings so far at least. Obviously, ending number 4 has been not added yet to the global version of this game, so I cannot speak on ending 4, but ending 2, 3, and the memory mapping for the individual characters are all what-if scenarios, or rather different timelines of events happening to individual characters or to the world itself, as we've seen in ending number 2. But they are essentially a different timeline and do not impact canonically, at least, the timeline of events that we know from Arknights. However, they do carry lore and such that does help us understand certain things that we've kinda heard about or got hinted at from the already aforementioned stories. But yeah, with that said, let us proceed, and as per usual, or rather like in the previous video, go over the journey towards ending 3, what we discover along the way, the items, the descriptions, the boss description, the battle itself, and then the 3 text endings and the cutscene obviously as well. And then we're gonna round it up. But anyway, let us begin. So, our journey to ending number 3 will begin here with this very first encounter that is very appropriately named The Beginning. And it reads as follows. The world is undergoing drastic changes. The news terminals will not stop beeping, and bad news continues to spill forth. The sea terrors are marching towards land, the penal battalion's fleet has been destroyed, and the Church of the Deep cultists have advanced on the Bastion de Canticos. However, what worries you most is news of the Abyssal Hunters who entered the Stultifera Navis. Mizuki found documents detailing plans to lure the Abyssal Hunters back into the ocean to resurrect him. And another document titled Karula records a bishop's lifelong research on the Seaborn as well as a certain location. Here we are given 2 options. The second option is just titled A Nightmare, and you gain 3 hope and you will just move away from this chain of events. However, the first option is to obtain the bishop's research that was just mentioned in the text, and mechanically wise, obtaining the research will make it so that you keep losing 5 light for each battle won. But after this, we obviously have the follow-up text by obtaining the bishop's research, and it says, "It's already too late to notify your Rhode Island or Iberian allies. You must dive into the abyss with Mizuki to dig out the secrets left behind by the bishop and use this knowledge to repel the Seaborn and save the Abyssal Hunters." So now, before we go and check out what the item is that we just obtained, the flavor text on it, here in the menu for the pictures, the event that you just saw, or the CG for the event that you just saw, is titled "The Storm Has Come," and it says, "The conspiracy has been cast, and those who've been lost cannot be brought back." But even in this apocalyptic backdrop of thunder and lightning, there are still things you can do. Your choice will determine Terra's fate. As for the items, the Bishop's research. In the flavor text it says, almost all of the Bishop's lifelong research can be found among these documents and notes, many of which involve experiments that transcended ethics and morality. In his eyes, making contact with the Seaborn was just a means to an end for his ultimate vision, allowing human beings to evolve into a more powerful existence through fusion with the Seaborn. From here on, we will move into our second encounter. On our second step on this journey to ending number 3, we will encounter the Karula Animus. And it says here, a gargantuan corpse lies at the location marked at the map. A large colony of sea terrors gathers around it, devouring its forever growing remains. Mizuki leads you around them, towards the inside of the corpse. After fumbling around in the darkness for a long time, the two of you finally find traces of civilization. A dust-sealed laboratory, long lost to time, awaits its guests. Mizuki cannot open the heavy, worn doors, but the surveillance equipment unlocks them after recognizing your faces. Since the Bishop of the Deep was convinced that this was the source of the Seaborn, this primordial power can surely help you save the Abyssal Hunters. You and Mizuki begin to search the laboratory. Here we are presented with pretty much searching the different areas of the laboratory, as you can see on screen. Two of the areas would be the research area, the office, but all of the areas only deduct 20 light from your light meter, and you would gain different objects or consumables in a form to speak. You could gain 5 hope, you could gain a random collectible, you could also gain 6 max life points. But the thing you want from here is the final option, to search the garden. You will obtain an Eldritch collectible. So, once we get that, we get greeted by this text. The plants around the garden are flourishing. Were it not for Mizuki's reminder, you'd surely have reached out to touch these plant-like sea terrors. In the center of the garden, a large tree rises from the ground and stretches beyond the laboratory's confines. Mizuki tells you that this is his core organ. In theory, he has long since died, but sheer survival instinct still drives him to grow, thus nourishing we many. If he assimilates it, Mizuki can become his new will and help you stop the Bishop's plans. You watch him touch the tree's bark, before he gradually sinks into the trunk. Not long afterwards, he emerges once more. The entire laboratory trembles with his awakening. He opens his eyes and looks at you. Thus he speaks, Isharmla will be stopped. So, once we close down this window, on the screen we will be greeted by a tiny little message saying, undercurrents surge beneath the tide. The blood of the firstborn leads Skadi back to we many, and the silence draws near. So yeah, ending number 3 will be a battle against the reawakened Isharmla, the big guy. But before we do so, quick little stop here back into the menu. In the menu here with the pictures, the thing is called the Karula Laboratory, and the picture, or rather the flavor text, reads, the wellspring of seaborn progeny, the heart of the Leviathan, the hope of changing the future. Also, I want to remind that in ending number 2, we already got described a bit about the gigantic corpse that is just lying dormant and dead on the seafloor. on which the sea terrors and seaborn are just feeding themselves and gorging themselves on. So they will forever have a sustenance, but right now, as stated by the text, Mizuki is the next in line. But we do have an item. The item is the Karula Animus. Once obtained, this item will deduct 50 light immediately from your meter, and it will also immediately afflict a random operator with a rejection, and it will lead to the exploration towards a different ending. The flavor text reads, "The surviving core organ of the firstborn that devoured its birthplace and soon died afterwards. Only the seaborn are able to assimilate it, but only humans are able to understand the grief contained within. Alas, even for those whose evolution never ends, their suffering will always persist." As a tiny little bonus before we now go into the description of the boss and quick overview of the stats like last time, there is a bonus event that you can get by obtaining these two items and going towards ending number 3. The bonus event in here in the picture menu is titled Arrival. And this is what you're greeted with. Prior remorse, harbored regrets, or lingering anger, the curtains have fallen on their struggle, and there is no need to disturb them. Their resting place has been set up, so let them slumber in peace. So yeah, on the journey after obtaining those two items, you can run into this event. And as you can see, the picture tells 1,000 words, right? We see Ulpianus watching or being the guard for our two sleeping beauties in the back, who are resting on each other. But this one is an internal rest. For this event, you can obtain an item. The item is right down here in the storyteller section, and it is titled The Last Refrain. To counteract what this item does once you obtain it, the Karula Animus, which gives you a rejection, this one will give you two random revelations. And the flavor text says, "Cry, cry, for where are the abyssal hunters now? Alas, alas, there is nothing in the ocean but the sound of the tide." So yeah, here we actually get to see what happens to the abyssal hunters once Isharmla has awoken. And all I can say is, rest in peace. However, let us now proceed over to the boss, which will be followed by the battle itself. So, let's hop over. So, our third boss, as mentioned before, will be Isharmla, Heart of Corruption. And the flavor text says, "She sings no more, it speaks for we many." Pretty short flavor text, you really don't need anything else. Isharmla is awake, it took control, Skadi is gone. Only remnants remain. However, when it comes to stats, you can see them on the left side of the screen. I do want to point out one thing, and that is the fact that this boss cannot be silenced, stunned, slapped, frozen, or levitated. Isharmla is immune to all of those things. So you need to fight Isharmla pretty much head on and work against the mechanics that the fight brings with it, which are not too complicated. But I do also want to point out that while Isharmla does have a SSAA rating for their stats, I do want to point out that because of the mechanics that it has, where it can buff itself up and change forms, it does have a lower defense than the Last Knight from Ending 2, and I do find that a bit hilarious, that our good old Last Knight is is the tankier, stronger version. But yeah, anyway, from here on we will go into the battle as per usual. The battle will be mostly running at normal speed until the boss is defeated, as I usually do that. So enjoy that, and I will see you for the cutscene that plays right after that. So, let's begin.
私の明かりについてきてください。潮と海霧に飲まれないように。皆さん、安全確保が第一です。
この時より秋だ。早くしろ。お前はもう戻れないんだよ。どの戦いも楽しむべきよ。まだ足りないわ。私に巡ってきたのかな。繁栄か、あるいは滅びか。お前にかける。苦しみを忘れたことはありません。あなたは私がお守りします。
影に踏み込まない。我の眼差しが真実を暴く。
苦しみを忘れたことはありません。早くしろ。お前にかける情けはない。あなたは私がお守りします。指定の位置に向かう。あなたは私がお守りします。心配しないで。指定の位置に向かう。
やば、ちょっと緊張してるかも。
あなたは私がお守りします。お前はもう戻れないんだよ。これで静かになってくれる。指定の位置に向かう。こんなの悲しいです。飛ぶでもがいてろ。
我慢におやすみなさい。ほら、さっきの技なんかかっこよくない？速さで行く。早く。
心配しないで。早くしろ。お前にかける情けはない。ターゲット確認。 私に出会ったのが運の尽きだ。速さで行く。早く。これで静かになってくれるの。さっさと片付ければ楽に終わる。速さで行く。簡単だ。あなたは私がおはよう。ターゲット確認。すぐに終わらせる。さっさと片付ければ楽に終わる。心配しないで。速さで行く。ターゲット確認。すぐに終わらせる。
Since the birth of the New World, this was the first conflict between the Firstborn. Mizuki became the consciousness the creeping branch had lost, and used this new power to challenge the corrupting heart. We many awaited the outcome of this conflict. Isharmla is defeated. He loses his Firstborn status and becomes yet another nameless entity within We Many. Mizuki has emerged victorious, yet he feels no joy at this victory. Right before his eyes, another Firstborn teeters on the brink of madness. The treacherous ruse of the Bishops of the Deep has been brought to light. They would drive the primordial lifespring, the source of the profound silence, to madness, and thus induce the awakening of the corrupting heart within Skadi. Once the two Firstborn fused, it would trigger a mass extinction level silence, ushering in the destruction of Aegir and the era of the Seaborn long desired by the Bishops. This Firstborn is not like Isharmla. It is the symbol of the Seaborn survival, the bioenrichment of microorganisms. It is one with the ocean, and there is no way to defeat it unless the ocean dries up. Unless the ocean turns blood red and the Silence's arrival is imminent. Even should the Lifespring's madness be quelled, even if We Many is given a leader, none of that would halt the drive to survive and evolve ingrained into their genes. Of course, Mizuki is able to keep We Many from the land. But with the awakening of the Seaborn's instincts and We Many's consciousness, his control will eventually collapse. After a decade, or perhaps a generation, even he cannot say for sure. All he can do is uphold the agreement with the Doctor until both his ego and humanity complete their retreat. At least, the Doctor and friends must be protected from Seaborn encroachment for however much time remains. The tide is about to rise, and Mizuki has no other choice. He steps into the ocean. His body undergoes a metamorphosis as he takes the same form as the Lifespring so that he may soothe the madness of his kin. From bright crimson diffuses deep cerulean, and Mizuki's human form gradually disappears. At the final moment, he turns his head to gaze back towards the land, a person's figure reflected in his eyes. In the next moment, the tide surges. Thus recedes Mizuki's image, never to be seen again. Cerulean blots out crimson, and the Firstborn's madness is soothed. The Seaborn and Seaterror swim towards the ocean depths, leaving the land to its original inhabitants. Humanity cheers, celebrating this historic change. But what they do not know is Everything comes at a price. A pharmaceutical company has forever lost a trusted companion. Alright then. So, from here we shall proceed into the 3 text entries for ending number 3. The 3 of them, as before, can be unlocked pretty much by beating the ending 3 individual times, and if you can somehow amongst those times, you need to fulfill a special condition for part number 3, as for the prior 2 endings. The condition for ending number 3 in this case was to beat the boss, aka Isharmla, without manually retreating a operator, which means that you cannot move them off the field by yourself, but from what I was told, at least they can be defeated and be removed from the field, just you cannot do it manually yourself. However, I have also by pure chance discovered that you can also retreat characters, but you need to defeat the boss. The requirement is also only valid while the boss is still on the field. Once the boss is gone off the field, you can keep retreating characters as much as you want. But anyway, let us begin with part number 1. Farewell. Time has erased people's fears of the ocean. With the departure of the Seaborn, Aegir has once again become proud and insular, and the countries on land have once again returned to their old ways of suspicion and conflict. The Seaborn are not the only peril they face upon this great land. Humanity must still deal with originium, catastrophes, and a great many tribulations yet to be known. Rhode Island still continues to travel the land's 4 corners, developing medication to suppress orypophy on one hand, exploring the options for humanity's peaceful coexistence on the other. As the leader of Rhode Island, the Doctor carries an immense burden. However, on a special day each year, the Doctor takes a vehicle away from Rhode Island, arriving at Iberia escorted by Tulip. They then arrive at the coast and stand alone at the beach, never leaving until the sun rises the next day. Year after year, this never-ending work continues. When night falls, the ocean's surface glimmers with a deep cerulean fluorescence. The Doctor steps into the waves, leaving shimmering footprints behind in the sand. To some observers, they are simply wasting valuable time. The day could clearly have been better spent trying to crack the usual dilemmas, leading field operations, or helping the various Rhode Island offices across the land solve their many complicated problems. Why spend it looking out across the beach, or wandering around aimlessly? But from the Doctor's own self-awareness, these simple actions have immense ritualistic importance, while also serving the purpose of self-readjustment. Many people see the Doctor as a omnipotent demigod, or a superhuman bordering on machine. They are wrong. The Doctor is human after all. Not an ordinary human, but a human nevertheless. One who has endured too much pain to share and too much grief to pour out. The land is unable to accommodate these emotions, but the sea can. Whatever you choose to confide, the sea will answer. Splash, splash. Since when did the ocean become so gentle? The Doctor does not wish to utter the answer that wells up from within. An operator had soothed the tides, but never returned to the team. The only memory he left behind was the fluorescent cerulean tide that appears once every year, and so the Doctor returns here every year, to be alone, to meditate, to confide. Humanity's thought-filled rhetoric and nature's never-ending echoes, they are all full of meaning. One calls, the other replies, time and again. Through this minuscule behavior, an iota of solace can take root in the bottom of one's heart. It is insufficient to fill any holes within that heart, but it is enough to induce one to repeat that behavior. Will Mizuki hear? Yes, he will. The doctor believes this, and thus lets everything out. As they walk across the sand, the waves gently reach out past their ankles. The water tugs at their boots like tendrils, before receding with the tide. The cerulean fluorescence dots the doctor's moistened boots, shimmering, shining. So, before I continue into part 2, there is, and you've probably noticed it from the thumbnail for this video, there is a picture here that does not co-align with what we saw in the ending. This was the picture for the ending cutscene, but why is this one different? Well, as you just saw from, or rather heard from this ending, this one has a tiny little special extra here. So, first picture was the one that we saw in the cutscene. And it says, Mizuki might not be gone, but the next time you see him, you will no longer call him Mizuki. And I want to point out as well that every time since absorbing that object into himself, Mizuki would always in text be referred with a capital H when it is he or him, because he became technically the next god, question mark, for the Seaborn. But we also get a second picture, which is tied to that very part 1 that I just read, titled Farewell. Countless unspoken promises are fulfilled every year, but alas, legacy of mankind, how long can you continue to struggle? And yes, it is pretty much a very poetic looking picture with the cerulean fluorescence, the shimmer across the beach, the footsteps of the doctor going across the waves as they splash, and a silhouette of Mizuki standing there. But anyway, we have 2 more parts to go over. So, let us return into here. Now for part number 2, titled Recollection. Isharmla is defeated. He calmly accepts the punishment of Wimeni, but cannot understand how he, who was born to fight, lost to a mass of that branches walking. Regardless, after that battle, his path will no longer be the trajectory explored by Wimeni. Since he is no longer needed, he will also seal himself away and enter a deep slumber, allowing the consciousness named Skadi to resurface once more. Skadi dreamt a dream. In the dream, she raised the tides and stepped across the land, trying to search for something in the realm above, but just as soon as she was ready to set off, the dream abruptly ended. After she awakens, her memories fade along with the dream. She tries hard to cling to something, but her brain is flooded with things sent by Wimeni. That is not what she wants. She does not belong here. Skadi herself does not understand why she would generate these kinds of thoughts about her kin. They were always so kind, even willing to give their lives for her if necessary. There is no fanaticism or manipulation behind their actions, only equality, only altruism. But between continuing to swim alongside Wimeni or casting them aside, Skadi still chooses the latter. A kind of disgust emerges from the depths of her heart. Even in the face of death, she does not wish to be among the Seaborn. As for why, she does not know. How could a Seaborn come to hate her own kind? Skadi cannot answer. The land. The land. Her subconscious leads her to swim towards the land. Someone she wishes to see is there. Why would a Seaborn want to see a human? Skadi does not understand. Her consciousness conflicts with a Seaborn's instincts on every level, so much so that her own actions are incoherent. But eventually, she makes her way to the shore and surfaces, her eyes scanning the empty, endless beach. The silhouette of a hooded man appears in her vision. She feels elation and begins to involuntarily recall that human's face, then fragments of the two of them deepening their relationship. Then, further behind them, the abyssal hunters, Aegir, the ocean. Memories rush back into her mind like a flood, shattering her soul. And now for part number 3. Lamentation. Father, mother, brothers and sisters, Ulpianus, Laurentina, Gladia, past, present, future. Skadi recalls everything. Skadi lost everything. A monster that does not belong among humans, a human who does not belong among Seaborn, hiding within the tides, timidly looking at this symbol of beauty. She wishes to show herself, but is afraid to do so. Even if the doctor forgives her, she can never forgive herself. All she can do is gaze from a distance, ever so slightly filling the void in her heart, before she once again drowns beneath an overwhelming sense of guilt. Living has become so burdensome, yet death is so far away. She has become an empty abstraction. A ballad wells up in Skadi's throat. She has sung it thousands of times already, each syllable and vocalization long perfected. But now it sounds like glass shattering against the ground, shattering into thousands of little fragments that can never be put back together again. Yet she continues to sing and sing. Singing is the only instinct she has left. The song can neither atone for her sins nor soothe her grief, but she still continues to sing, tears streaming down her face. Her trembling heart takes away the pitch of her voice. Tears fall upon the tip of her tongue, the bitterness seeping into her bosom. Her throat gradually becomes red and swollen, her song periodically interrupted by sobbing. Yet she still continues to sing and sing. She does not need an audience, nor does she expect one. If singing is the only purpose left in her existence, then sing she will. The doctor standing along the coast seems to have heard something and turns to look at the ocean. Save for the sound of waves, there is nothing there at all. And that would be the ending number 3 in its entirety. From the journey, to the battle, to everything post-battle. Ending number 2 was already very gut-wrenching to read through because of how apocalyptic it was, but I'll say when it comes to emotions, my preferred one would probably be this one. This one hits way more because it's way more concentrated onto individuals that we know. But yeah, a very, very tragic ending for very beloved characters. What can I say? But yeah, as a reminder, these are alternative timelines of events, of things happening to both the operators and the world itself, so they are not canonically connected to our own world outside of what lore they bring. But yeah, as we've seen already in part number 2, the Seaborn will probably go on forever until, like the description poetically says, until the ocean dries up and the gargantuan body of the technically dead firstborn does not disappear or die. It will forever have sustenance, and it will forever grow and feed the little Seaborns that are continuously being born around it. But yeah, that will be ending number 3. And what can I say? I hope ending number 4 is gonna be a happy one to some extent. We'll see when the time comes for that one. I will be live streaming it as I did before for the previous endings and other little things for IS3. So if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. You're pretty much gonna get a chance to see my first time reactions to those, and while I don't explicitly react very viciously like some other people maybe do who do these kind of you know, reaction videos, I did have reactions definitely to the different endings once I saw them for the first time. You can see them and find them easily on the live section of the channel if you wanna peek through them. And yeah, what can I say outside of, if you've liked this video, please consider leaving a like. It helps me in the algorithm, so thank you very much. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. There is a lot more content on this channel than just these endings. From side stories to main story narrations and character voicings to other things and other lore tidbits and such. There is a lot, so take a peek. Maybe you'll find something you like. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this ending. I hope it didn't depress you too much. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.